So let's go on to awakening part 2. Whichever of these different routes you've chosen, and let's come up with some more. Lucid dreaming, that'll be another one. Just keeping a dream journal, that'll be another one. Any kind of deep inner work, meditation, journeying work, lots of possibilities really. Being still, opening up your senses, really tuning into nature. That's also an interesting way to work. So the breakthrough occurs by whatever means. And then of course the other one I must remember to mention, which is total spontaneous moments of awakening, not apparently triggered by any of the methods that I've described before. That does happen to people, someone living their lives. In fact, this is to do with shamanic initiation. In fact, that's a really big one. Initiation, that's when a person suddenly finds themselves totally outside their comfort zone. Something totally dramatic happened to them, like the incident I've described when I found my car going off the road onto a thin layer of water on the surface of the road, then careering straight towards a rock face about 30 feet away, and then suddenly about 20 feet away doing a 180-degree U-turn and then stopping with the front tyres on the very edge of the road with no apparent explanation for any of it. So this relates to parallel realities, doesn't it? Of course it does. So part of the awakening process is to become aware that there are many, many realities, and that we have so much more choice than we realise. And I do invite you to look at the film on parallel realities to go into that some more. So whichever method you use, this is what happens. There comes an awareness, and it's like this. I'm aware that there is this illusion that I appear to be this awareness situated somewhere within this skull, and that there are these two things looking out at the world. But I know that's an illusion, and I know there's so much more to me and to reality than what I can see with my eyes, hear with my ears, and all the rest of it. And that actually I am in a vast nexus of infinite possibilities which are coalescing into and out of existence with every choice that I make, with every breath that I take. And in fact, really the concept of I is a bit of an illusion, because there is all that is, and I am part of all that is, so we are all one. And this is something that people are able to grasp so well when they work with the mushrooms, the little fungi that you can go and pick in the autumn. That's a really interesting way to make this connection. So we realise that when we wake up in the morning, actually that isn't waking up really, that's going to sleep. And then when you lie in your bed at night, and then your consciousness appears to switch off, and then something happens during the night, and you may have dreams you remember, or you may not remember your dreams. Well, during the night, during those 7 or 8 hours, if you're looking after yourself properly, you'll have at least 7.5 hours of sleep. During that time, you merge with all that is, and you are one with everything. And then in the following morning you wake up. That means you're actually back into being inserted into what I call the glove, this human form. You're aware of everything from the perspective of having a physical body again. Well, you just spent 7 or 8 hours vast beyond measure, but now you're apparently you're living with the illusion of being contained in this space. But it is an illusion, because of course we are so much more than our physical bodies and our thoughts and our feelings and all the things that we can name and touch and experience. We're so much more than all of this. And being still in nature is a wonderful way in. If you don't want to work with any of those medicines I was referring to earlier, you don't want to work with any of those other practices, just being in nature and becoming very quiet and very still. Or if you're moving very slowly, these can be wonderful ways for you to realize the vastness of all that is. That's what awakening is, to realize that every time you wake up, that's actually slipping into that little consensus trance that so many billions are currently engaged with on this planet. And every time you go to bed or drop unconscious, that's when the real thing is happening. And then of course there's this mystery about what happens to a person when their physical body separates from their consciousness, what we call dying. When someone dies, they don't die because there's no death, because death doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't, we all know that, except for the Richard Dawkinses of this world, and they get the really big surprise, because when they pass into spirit, oh, so it's not over. No, it isn't exactly. So for those that pass into spirit, that's when everything can open up. However, if the person in their physical life is so conditioned, so full of belief systems, so convinced that all there is what is this little consciousness stuck within this little brain box, this little skull, well then when they pass into spirit, they're going to go into a construct which will actually, depending on their state of development, either be the nightmare of hell. At one extreme, that's the lowest of the low astral realms, or at the upper astral realms, they might be into what they would consider to be the paradise as described in holy books. But for those of us who've had the taste of multidimensional existence, for those of us that know that I am multidimensional me and you are multidimensional you, then that's when the really big party starts. Because that's the no limits, because that's when the concept of I doesn't have so much meaning anymore, and we move beyond words to describe existence. But let me just put it this way: all mainstream religions frown upon suicide because it's a very heavily morally judged thing. It's judged as being wrong. There's reasons for that. They don't want you to know how miraculous and amazing existence is beyond the 3D. But for those who pass into spirit, who are ready, who've done the inner work, who've had an awakening moment in this physical life, they know. And it could simply be having a lucid dream, or it could be doing lots of intensive studies with all sorts of plant medicines and other experiences and shamanic practices, or it could be something totally spontaneous and out of the blue that the person always remembers. Then the possibilities are indeed limitless. That's what awakening is. Thank you very much for choosing to incarnate into a physical body, so that you could fall asleep and rediscover the miracle of reawakening. And remember, you wake up every night that you apparently go to sleep. Thank you.